if I would have applied myself, I could have gone to the NBA.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. But it's just like, it's been done. I didn't want to, I was like, I don't want to be a follower. Hi, I'm Jason Concepcion.
And I'm Shea Serrano. And we are back. We have a new podcast from Wondery. It's called Six Trophies.
Woo!
And it's the best.
Each week, Shea Serrano and I are combing through all the NBA storylines, finding the best, most interesting, most compelling stories, and then handing out 6 pop culture themed trophies for 6 basketball related activities.
Trophies like the Dominic Toretto I Live My Life a Quarter Mile at a Time trophy, which is given to someone who made a short-term decision with no regard for future consequence.
Or the Christopher Nolan Tenet trophy, which is given to someone who did something that we didn't understand.
Catalina Wine Mixer trophy.
Ooh, the Lauryn Hill, you might win some, but you just lost one trophy. And what's more, the NBA playoffs are here, so you want to make 6 Trophies your go-to companion podcast through all the craziness. Follow 6 Trophies on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Listen ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Maverick. I'm Kirk Henderson, joined as always by Josh Bowe. We're coming to you on Tuesday, May 28th. It's a bit before 10:30. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm going to have to retire the shirt. This is the first time the Mavericks have lost since I've worn the shirt. The Dallas Mavericks fell 105-100 in a Game 4 potential closeout for the Western Conference Finals and a chance to go to the NBA Finals. Kind of want to figure out how to start to talk about this one because, there was a clip that went around post-game about Kyrie essentially saying that the Wolves are playing for their lives and this is any other game for us. And that was kind of a prophecy. And, the Wolves played with just a bit more, can't even think of zest. They were really going for it tonight. The Mavericks had answers. The Mavericks also screwed around. I really thought the third quarter was pretty decisive where, they ended up down 5 despite having a lead for part of the quarter. They got interesting contributions across the board from guys that I don't necessarily expect, only to have more tried and true players really shit the bed. Kind of no other way to get around that. You got Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic shooting 33% from the floor, toss in PJ Washington shooting 25%. I mean, the Mavericks shot 42% from the floor for the game. It was, I don't want to get too bent out of shape about this one outside of like the importance of the game, but like really all you need in this game is for your best players to play better. And I think you walk away and win with this one. Kyrie Irving played one of the worst games he's played this playoffs. Really no other way around that. Just some very baffling misses at the rim. He was 1 for 6 from 3. And guys, I'll tell you, at least 3 of them were wide open. Luka was additionally really putrid. He was 3 of 10 from 2-point range. You can't have that. Missed 2 key free throws. He worked his assist total up to 10, which is pretty fascinating considering how many. I mean, it felt like 2021 all over again with like guys just bricking shots on absolutely gorgeous Luka passes. And so we find ourselves here. I mean, we could kind of talk about the game from the beginning of it and work ourselves around. I mean, I'm very frustrated in this Mavericks loss. They really left something on the, they left something on the floor in this one, and they should be pretty embarrassed, to be quite honest.
Yeah, this is a tough one because you look at some of the numbers and it's kind of remarkable that they were even in the game at all. I mean, Minnesota shot 52.7% from the floor. The Mavericks shot 42%. Minnesota shot 45% from three. The Mavericks shot 35%. Now, of course, the Timberwolves didn't shoot a ton of threes. The Mavericks still ended up making 3 more 3-pointers than them. That plus points off turnovers, plus second chance points. Like, the Mavericks were really only in this game because they were kind of mucking it up and winning kind of the ugly side of the game.
Sure.
Because really they had nothing going because their 2 stars were just so flat. It's funny that you said that, reminded you of like a 2020 game where, all the Mavericks role players are missing shots. The Mavericks were 14 of 40 from 3. Luka and Kyrie combined to go of that 14 of 40. Luka and Kyrie were 5 of 17. So I'm trying to do the math in my head real quick, but the Mavericks role players shot decently.
No, PJ Washington shot fucking horribly, man. Josh,
he did. But
Kleber took 2 threes that were horrible.
Okay, but
Exum only got why did Exum only play 4 minutes? What is?
I don't know, but
I'm really annoyed at this one.
I'm not denying it, but you got 2 of 3 from Derek Jones. You got 3 of 4 from Jaden Hardy. Dante Exum made a 3. Josh Green made a 3. That's enough. That's enough.
No, it is enough.
Players.
You're right.
Yeah. So,
no, you're right. I just this was the PJ game we got used to in the regular season, if we're being honest.
This was a pretty.
He got a little if I want to, outside of Kyrie not playing very well, if I want to lay this at one person, it's PJ, who really let Cat get going. You can see, I'm sorry, if you've played middle school basketball, you can see some of the flare action that the Wolves are doing for Karl Anthony Towns from the beginning of the play. It's like you see Rudy Gobert's big ass setting a moving screen where he lead blocks 15 feet away from the basket, and that's where the ball's going. It's going to Cat. And he was doing something on at least 3 of how many threes did Cat hit tonight? Karl Anthony Towns, who'd been in just a tremendous
4 threes, 4 or 5.
On 3 of them, I'm like, what? Why are you letting him catch it clean? Get up in his shorts. And I was very frustrated with PJ tonight. I
thought it was indicative of kind of the whole team outside of Gafford. I felt like outside of Daniel Gafford at the rim, the Mavericks defense was pretty disappointing, and that's not shocking when they're missing Derek Lively, who might be their 3rd best player.
Sure.
To be honest, he might be.
There's a horrid coaching decision. Jason Kidd inserts Dwight Powell despite having Maxi Kleber available. Dwight Powell was a -4 in 3 minutes with 1 turnover. That was his only statistical contribution.
He was very bad in those 3 minutes.
And in a game decided by this level of points, you can't make that kind of coaching error. What Luka literally called for Dwight to get out of the game after that. It was that kind of bad. And, you're right about, I was honestly surprised at how well Gafford held up. Gafford was quite interesting. It was really something.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is just with Maxey coming back. I mean, he only played 13 minutes, so it was pretty clear that they were not going to run Maxey out there for extended time, and they just probably didn't want to go small. And if Maxey can't play, it was good to see Maxey back, and I think he had some decent plays. If he's only can play 13 minutes, Powell's probably going to have to play. I don't really know. Maybe they just run PJ at center, but I don't think they felt comfortable with that. I think it's a really tough spot to be in. Sure. But now, hopefully, that shouldn't be a problem going forward, because even if Lively doesn't come back, hopefully, Maxey's minutes can ramp up, and you just run Maxey at the 5 as your backup 5, and you send Powell to the Phantom Zone. Because absolutely, it didn't work in game 3 either. The Mavericks just kind of overcame it.
And it hasn't worked at any point in Mavericks history. The reason it worked is because they overcame it, not because he was good. I mean, that's not fair. Powell did his job for several years. I just can't have him in the Western Conference Finals. Can't do it. You go back to all of them. I was just profoundly frustrated with the way that the Mavericks played the second half in particular. They played like they were going to be there. And then the thing was, they were, and they didn't come up with it. That's going to happen. But they didn't need, like, the game didn't need to be that close. Like, there was some real, I trying to think how to describe this, because I really earnestly felt like the Mavericks were playing with their food. And it bit them in the end.
Yeah, it was weird because, the off-ball defense was what it is, and that has nothing, it probably has something to do with Derek Lively, I suppose, because Lively can probably extend a bit more than Gafford, even though Gafford had 3 blocks and was great. The Wolves, again, had a good shooting night in the restricted area, their second straight game, and it's not a coincidence without Lively. They were 13 of 18. They shot well from 3. Yeah, and I just thought the Mavericks didn't get through screens very well. It looked like you said, it looked like they were kind of surprised by some of the actions that Minnesota was running. I thought the Wolves finally smartly spammed some Towns Gobert pick and roll, which the Mavericks haven't been able to guard all series. And they did that a lot in the third quarter when they kind of built up that lead. So yeah, that was just, there was a lack of attention to detail there. I just didn't think off ball the Mavericks were clean enough. Mm-hmm. And then offensively, like you were saying, I don't think Luka and Kyrie looked comfortable offensively in the pick and roll for the first time in a long time. I thought both of them were a little indecisive when navigating the space that the Wolves were giving them. I thought when the Wolves blitzed, I thought they made the right play almost every single time. And I thought they had their most success once again when the Wolves were blitzing, despite the fact that there were some turnovers and they did force some missed shots. But for the most part, when the Wolves blitzed, the Mavericks got like a clean open look majority of the time. So they handled that well. What they didn't handle well was when the Wolves didn't blitz and they played a little bit more drop, or they switched, or they played a little more conservative in the pick and roll. Mm-hmm. And the Mavericks had all that space, and you kind of saw Luka and Kyrie kind of dancing in that mid-range floater area.
Hate it.
And they did not make any. They made no shots in that area.
They didn't. The shots that they took sucked. That's the secondary thing. Like, if you're going to get in that zone, and I get it, Luka is one of the best late passers in a possession in the NBA, maybe in NBA history. But there's something to be said about a level of decisiveness. Like, there was one play where Luka gets all the way to the rim and throws one out to Jaden Hardy. And Jaden Hardy, who played a fantastic game, all things considered, Mavericks wouldn't have been where they were without him. He's the last guy. Everybody else is basically at the basket or level at the baseline. Hardy does something like he's going to go in and throw down a massive dunk, and Ant just pokes the ball from him because Hardy's handles suck, and goes in for a dunk. And it's like, why, like, Luka, what are you doing getting that far into the teeth of the defense? Like, do something else with it on occasion. Like, what was Luka in the restricted area tonight? Can you tell me?
He was 1 of 1. So between the restricted area and the 3-point line, he was a combined 2 of 9.
So it's like, buddy, you got to hit these shots. You got to take a few more, because the ones that you're taking, and my friend Jared Dubin, written at 538, written all over the place. He's a CBS contributor. Tells me that, like, he loves the Luka bump and spin in like the old Dirk shot. It drives me crazy because Luka gets the guy on his back shoulder and he has the floater. And I get that Gobert is there and Gobert is incredible, but I just want to see the occasional floater from Luka. He used to have a floater. I don't know.
Kyrie was 1 of 4 for mid-range. So
ooh.
I think the Wolves, this is kind of what the Wolves did in game 1. They played a similar defensive strategy where they were like, okay, if we don't blitz, we're going to live with Luka and Kyrie taking difficult twos in our kind of 2-on-2 defense while everyone else stays hugged to the role players. And in game 1, the Mavericks made those 2 guys made all those shots in this game and missed them. So
yeah.
Hate to say make or miss league because I've kind of rallied against that when trying to defend the Mavericks' performance in the playoffs, but they definitely did not make those shots. But I also think the Wolves did a much better job contesting. It was pretty clear that the Wolves, like, this was the best effort from the Wolves for sure, both strategically and effort-wise, and also they did stuff that you're just kind of waiting for teams to do. Like, because when you think about this Mavericks defense, you're not going to beat them by just like bull ramming yourself to the rim, because that's what the Mavericks want you to do. Like, you got to move off ball. You got to set some screens. You got to do some different kind of stuff. I thought they set way more screens tonight. I mean, I don't have the number in front of me, so I could be completely wrong. but I felt like they just did a much better job with their ball screens and freeing up their scorers, because the Mavericks can kind of die on screens a little bit if it's not Derek Jones Jr. Yeah,
kinda. Oh my God! Like, I want to talk about the third quarter some more, because the third quarter, where you had at the end of the third quarter, you had Ant, Rudy, and Karl Anthony Towns on the bench. No, not Ant, but you had two of the three of them on the bench. And no, was this halftime? No, it really was the end of the third quarter, because the Mavericks went down 78-75. Jaden Hardy drives the lane, makes a tough shot with 7 seconds left. 40 feet away from the basket. Josh Green gets fucking destroyed on another screen, which allows Ant to hit a pull-up. Like, I need my man Panda Hank to make a Josh Green dying on screens like video thing, because some of it is Green constantly trying to sell a foul. That's really what I think a lot of it is. The other part of it is it's just, I just think he gets confused about whether he's supposed to go under or over screens. If you get blasted on a screen at half court, you don't know what you're doing. And it's not just him, but he's often like, when you see, like, there was a really cool drawn up play in the second quarter where Naz Reid comes off a down screen almost at the 3-point line. It was like a curl screen, and gets the ball at the top of the key and just drives straight to the basket for the layup. Guess who was guarding him? Josh Green. It's the same people who die on screens over and over and over for this team. I don't understand how that, like, if the Wolves just ran Josh Green off screens, they'd probably score 115 points a game. I can't. Again, we're mad. I'm mad because they lost a winnable game, but I'm tired of seeing like the same cock-ups from guys who are pretty good. Like, the Mavs made it this far. How do you keep it?
I mean, it says a lot that they, like, I know I said this earlier. It says a lot that they only lost this game by 5. Like, there were a lot of mistakes, and there were a lot of things that they could have done to be better. Like, with the way that this game was trending and how they were defending and kind of how they were shooting a little bit, you know, especially like Luka and Kyrie combined to go 13 of 39 from the floor, and
not good. That's why they lost. Like,
right, yeah. But they still had a chance. Like, if you told me before this game started that Luka and Kyrie combined to go 13 of 39, I'd be like, oh well, this game was 25-point deficit at halftime.
Sure,
like that is it says a lot to where the Mavericks are as a team now, that they're able to overcome this, but they're not. You know, it's not, they can't overcome that bad. So. No. On one hand, it's not good to drop a home game when you can end a series. Now you got to go back to Minnesota to end it. Maybe you get Derek Lively back. Maybe you don't. It's a little still up in the air. But, you know, I think that you could – I've already gotten responses. I see glass half full and glass half empty thoughts from both. And you could go both ways. To me,
this is a game you overanalyze. That's what it is. Yeah. I mean – you missed the really outrageously awful turnover from Kyrie Irving.
I went back and watched it.
Like,
the one where he kind of petered out of his left hand into the middle.
Who were you passing to there, Bubs?
I don't know if I've seen Kyrie. I mean, that was a bad game.
It's one of the worst games he's played in months. Like, you know, at least against the Thunder, when he wasn't doing anything, he wasn't making mistakes.
And he was defending. He didn't defend as well.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, there was an air of desperation from the Wolves. They came out and played like it. I'm very, you know, let's take a quick break. Talk about another thing. All right, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. Obviously, after losses, fewer people come in here because most people just want to move on. I don't blame you. It's sort of the nature of basketball. But Josh and I are here after every single game. You should consider liking the stream while you're here. You should also consider subscribing to our show if you haven't. There's something you can do, and I never know how YouTube stuff works because I'm an old, but I think you can do something where you get notified live of all of our live streams if you set up your notifications correctly. So I would appreciate if you'd consider that. If you're listening on the audio stream, you know, one of the various podcast outlets, if you could consider leaving a review, Josh and I would appreciate that. We're really grateful for everybody that hangs out with us. I'll be doing a group therapy, first one in some time, because the Mavericks actually haven't. They last time they lost was Game 4 against the Thunder, which is quite interesting in hindsight. They have lost every single Game 4. Is that correct?
They have lost every single game 4 in the playoffs, so they're 0-3, and all 3 have been at home. The game one streak ended this series, but now we've got a new streak with
new streak going.
Yeah.
Well, so we'll hang out and talk after that, and you guys can come share your particular foibles if you want to with this game, and we'll move on to the next one because the conference finals are relentless. The Mavericks play again on Thursday night, so I'm going to do an ad insert. If you guys would hang out, then Josh and I will be right back.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this podcast. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. At hundreds of locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/bluewire to learn more and find a center near you. That's unifydhealing.com/bluewire. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.
Primary Election Day is Tuesday, June 4th. Now is the time to make a plan. Whether you plan to vote absentee by mail, in person at your county auditor's office before Election Day, or at your polling place on June 4th, it's important you take steps now to make your plan at voterready.iowa.gov. Remember, Election Day is Tuesday, June 4th. Find more info at voterready.iowa.gov. This message is presented by the Iowa Secretary of State.
Okay, breaks are sometimes good, if only because it gives me a chance to recollect my thoughts. Shout out to my man Henry, who says blame Kyrie. He played like hot dog water. 7 Larry Lime says angry Kirk has entered the chat. Is it Josh's fault? And then Michael Scott says Mavs went away from a hot Dante Exum. I don't understand why Dante didn't get more burn.
Yeah, that was interesting because he finally made shots. Like, yeah. I don't know. That was kind of weird. But I mean, also, where does Exum play more?
That's true because Hardy played well. So
right.
So you're not like of the two. I think I'd rather have the hotter hand of Hardy.
Right, because that's the only minutes he's taken because he's not taking away minutes from their starting 5.
Sure.
And especially Jones was making threes, and you're not taking PJ off the floor because they don't have anyone to guard Ant. So I think that was probably what it was. Yeah. I bet you if Hardy didn't have that heater, he probably would have gone back there.
Just to try, because I mean, this is the first. It's frustrating because at one point in the game you're getting threes from. You got a 3 from Green, Exum, and Hardy all in the first half. Though Hardy actually hit one in the second half as well. And it's painful to lose when you're not. This is what happened to the Wolves. Like they get contributions from the role players, and then the stars don't step up. And
they lost the game where Jaden McDaniel scored like 25 points.
When Naz Reid hit 99 of 100 threes against the Mavericks. Like these things do happen. I very much do understand it. I mean, I still for the fans who wonder why I specifically like nitpick elements of things. It's because we run a podcast, guys. We want to talk about something else other than Luka and Kyrie playing bad. And if I was to like power rank, you put Kyrie playing like ass first, you put Luka playing shooting terribly second, and then you really go from there. I'm trying to think if there's like anything else that's really worth dipping into for me because I didn't take as good of notes tonight. I should have known the game was going to go to hell. My 6-month-old is cutting 3 teeth at once, and he's just like angry as fuck. So it's like middle of the game, you start to hear the crying, and I was like, oh no, this isn't great. But what else were you thinking about during this game?
PJ only made 1 2-pointer. I thought that was kind of, I don't know, kind of said a lot. Mm-hmm. They kind of spaced him out to the floor to the 3-point line. I mean, it's not crazy. He hasn't taken a ton of 2s in this series or even in the playoffs, but There was a possession, and I can't remember the second half or the first half where they did. I mean, it wasn't something fancy, but Cat is guarding PJ Washington, and they did a pick and pop, and Cat's closeout on PJ to get back to him at the 3-point line was just like no chance, like totally flat-footed when PJ caught the ball and immediately drove by him, and he finished at the rim. And I was just kind of like, they space PJ so often, and they use their 5 to set so many screens because, if Gafford's not setting screens, he's not as useful because they can just kind of lurk off of him and help off of him because he's not going to space the floor. So they use PJ to space the floor a lot. And since Cat's guarding PJ, like, there's a part of me that's just like, do they need to adjust a little bit and just have PJ set more screens and pick and pop and try to get Cat moving? Because I think that's where you can attack this Wolves defense. I think that's a vulnerability, despite how great Cat was in the second round. A lot of that was because he was just playing one-on-one post defense, which he's seemingly gotten better at. He's a big, athletic, strong dude. You probably want him moving around at the 3-point line. You want him making rotations. You want him making decisions because, as we've seen, he is not the best defensive decision maker. He fouled out in this game. I think 3 of his 6 fouls were just brain dead. Like, what are you doing fouls? And he seemingly gets those every game. So why don't you make him make more decisions? Like, let PJ set some screens for Luka or Kyrie. Let him pop. Let him roll. Let him do some different things. Let him attack Cat off the bounce.
He can hit the floaters that we're bitching about. He doesn't get a chance to shoot them because he's always attacking from the corners. He's never attacking from the center of the floor.
Yeah, or he's just shooting from the corner. Like, he's not even getting to attack because they want their 5 because Gafford or Lively can't space the floor. So I guess they don't want the Wolves gunking up the paint or gunking up the lane if Gafford or Lively is not the one setting the screen. But they might need to get a little funky with that. And especially like if Lively can't play in game 5 and if they do banish Powell and they're running Maxey, PJ kind of backup frontline minutes when Gafford's off the floor, they need, with Maxey being able to space, they need to see if they can get Cat involved in more defensive decisions. Because they're kind of letting him off the hook, especially with how foul happy he is. I think they're letting him off the hook a little bit by just having to stand in the corner to guard PJ, who isn't moving around a lot.
Some really nonsense statistics that I like. I was just looking at this. There were 45 personal fouls called in this game between. This was a
pre-All-Star break game.
There were 46 free throws shot between the two teams, which is really something. It was funny because it's like you had Scott Foster and Ed Malloy on the call, and Mavs fans like Master Trey. I don't even know who he works for anymore, but made a good joke on the Twitter about the extender. But the refs didn't. The refs were fine in this game. The first quarter was pretty bad, where Ant gets 8 free throws and Luka is getting humped like he's just. It was really Luka was getting fed the fuck up. But they really, I thought they overcorrected to a certain extent in the second half, which I think is why Luka was doing the thing he did up until game 5 against the Wolves, where he was hunting for fouls a little bit, but he hit 10 12 from the line. So it's like he's getting, I don't know. I just want to see him finish. Trying to think if there's what else I'm looking at.
The Wolves outscored the Mavericks in the paint. That's been a good stat for the Mavericks in this series.
That has been.
What was it? It was 46-36. So the Mavericks only have 36 paint points.
Yeah.
Like that's a really low number for them with how they've been playing lately. And again, no Lively. So that's like five restricted area shots that are getting taken away when he's not out there.
I have a little bit of I don't know. This seems not fair for a guy who had 29, 10, and 9, but
this wasn't a good Luka game.
No. This is an Anthony Edwards.
Sorry. Wow. They almost exactly similar stat lines.
They did. I find myself not. Edwards made 2 big baskets that really helped seal the game.
You don't feel scared of him.
I think the Mavericks pushing him to be the playmaker is a good thing for them over the long haul of the game. I mean, he had 6 turnovers and some of them were terrible. And what was so funny to me is that for a significant portion of the game, he inherited the Luka role where he was talking to the refs about every drive. And he did shoot. He shot 8 free throws, but if I'm reading this correctly, all 8 of those were in the first quarter. So, like, he didn't shoot any free throws in the last 3 quarters. I could be crazy on this, but I specifically remember 8 free throws in the first quarter.
Here, wait, I can look that up for you real quick. Yes, yeah, you did. He all 8 in the first quarter.
So just sort of something to think about in the back of your head. Like, he drives into the key, and if he's not going to dunk it, he seems very surprised by verticality, meaning the Tyson Chandler 2011 stuff, the Derek Lively stuff, where it's like, if there's a big guy there with their hands up and they just jump straight up with no hands getting brought down, there's not a foul being called. Yeah, so Solam says Edwards screaming, hey, every time he drives cracks me up a bit, but annoys me at the same time. Ant does that shit too. Like, Ant screams, Cat does that stuff too, where he screams and one, which is it makes me laugh. It makes me laugh.
Yeah, Ant was 4 of 12 in the paint, 3 of 5 at the restricted area, 1 of 7 outside of it in the paint. He did all his damage on jumpers. He was 5 of 8 from mid-range, and he was 2 of 5 from 3. So
that's kind of the story of this series.
Right. The Mavericks will live with that, right? Yeah. Like the one thing though, so because I don't want to do this because this has been one of my biggest pet peeves.
Sure.
It's like you see the 5 of 8 from mid-range, and you're like, he shot 62% on shots he probably makes 40% of the time. You know, what are you going to do? Well, what you're going to do is you don't let superstars walk into wide open 15-foot pull-ups, which he was off screens repeatedly because the Mavericks were dying.
And it wasn't. I use Green as an example.
But it was everyone.
It's not just Green. It's everyone. And
that's usually Derek Jones Jr.'s one of his best qualities as a defender. Is he's able to get around screens pretty well. Didn't happen tonight. So yeah, 5 of 8 from mid-range might be an anomaly, but it might not be if you give him the quality of the looks that he was getting tonight. But yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, you would still rather live with him shooting jumpers than getting clean looks in the paint. And I don't know. There's some tweaks to be made there, but I kind of understand what you're saying. Like, he's so physically dominant at the rim. You know, he hasn't played. I mean, he played against the Suns and then he played against the Nuggets. He is not used to getting to the rim and not having whatever he wants. Those are 2 teams that can't guard the rim very well. So he's finally going against elite rim protection for the first time in these playoffs, and it's probably throwing him off a bit.
God, I just saw a great take on the Twitter.com from @the_Garcia_kid. He retweeted a picture of the various Dallas Cowboys who were at the game, and he said they're who cost us the game. The Cowboys are just at the moment the lowliest of the professional sports franchises. So I don't know. Little kick into the Cowboys was pretty funny. I think we should just call it quits in this one and head over to the next one. I don't really want to linger too much on any one specific thing.
Yeah, especially this would sound really silly if we kept going on and on and on. And the Mavericks win in 5.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. They head up to Minnesota. I think the Mavericks like to play on the road, particularly Luka. Luka missed his last free throw after that absolutely crazy circus shot and one that he made over Ant, which love Ant's face. His mouth was just agape for about a minute and a half after the shot, which I don't know. I just can't help but like Anthony Edwards. He's just a fun guy. Unlike some of like the other guys like Rudy, who is just like, fuck that guy. He's going to hurt somebody this series the longer it goes on with the shit that he does. And I'm tired of watching him. All right. So we'll be back on Thursday and then I'll hang around and do group therapy.
Okay. We'll have fun with your live show. I'm worried. I'm seeing some Twitter takes. People are very concerned about this series now. So hopefully the people
they gotta win. The Wolves have to win 3 more times.
I know.
Like, this is the Mavs have to win 1 more time.
Yeah, it'll be okay.
That has never happened in history.
Kirk you're the level-headed one,
right? Like, could this go to 7 games? Sure. But I'm just like, come on, can we lighten up until there's like is Lively does he have a chance of coming back? Like, if Lively's done for the series, sure. If Lively's playing in the next 3 games, for example, if it happens to go that long, I like the Mavericks' chances. Right. So, all right, this has been Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. Thank you so much for hanging out. We'll be back on Thursday night. Everybody else, hang around in here. Those who are listening on the podcast version of this show, that this will be posted. The group therapy will be posted at some point on Wednesday afternoon. Everybody have a great rest of your week, and go Mavs.